So firstly, let's look at the minority attack from White's point of view. Uh, so the minority attack in the exchange variation of the Queen's Gambit for White. Shortly after Tigran Petrosyan became world champion, a little book was brought out by the Belgian player, Count Alberico Kelly de Galway. It doesn't sound very Belgian, but that's what he is. And describing the exchange variation as one of Petrosyan's main sources of income, like a little, a nice little earner. So let's see Petrosyan earning some of his some of his income. So slow opening, different move order, but exchange variation with bishop to f4, in fact, and White keeps the knight out of b4, and the knight comes around to, in fact, to c7. Black has a pop at the bishop, and now after knight to g7, I expect Black's thinking about swapping off this often difficult to develop bishop from c8 to put it on c5. F5, and that's a very common plan in these exchange variation positions with the minority attack. Anyhow, minority attack gets underway. a6 takes, and a4. So that's gained some time to play a4 and then b5, because the black bishop is no longer attacking the pawn on b4. Bishop to f5, takes, and now b5. And now black's just got a choice. How many pawns does he want weak where? There's no way of handling this so that black ends up with no weaknesses. Something's going to be weak somewhere. So black decides to move the a pawn away off the board, so that's not going to be weak. And queen to d6, chop chop, and so the weakness arrives on c6, and white cements it in place with knight to a4. And I think this position is already fairly clearly better for for white with this weakness. Black plays queen e7. Another one of the features of this position is another common maneuver for black is that the knight, or a knight, often sits very happily on d6. It controls a lot of key squares around the board. It might stop or slow down b5 if we hadn't got to that stage already, and if it can move to c4, then it will shield this weak c pawn from white's attack down the c file. So that's not a bad idea. Knight to d3, queen b7, v5, and black decides to move that knight on. Another swap. And instead of going to d7 as I expected, d6 as I expected, it went to e7. So be it. White's got that weakness that he wanted on c6. Queen b2, queen d1, keeping some pieces on the board. I mean, maybe swapping into an endgame is not at all bad here for white. But I think white proposed to keep the pieces on a little bit longer, keep it a little bit more complicated. And an h5 may already be a bit, trying a bit hard for black. Rook c1, rook b6, and now kicking the queen around. And the challenge for white here is how you're going to win. I've said we've got these positions where white can gang up 3 against 3 on that c pawn. And then what? Well, the sort of then what is we need 2 weaknesses, and black, by that possibly over eager h5 move, has given white another hook to hang on. And with g4, this opens up a second front, and it may be that black's few pieces are going to find it hard to control things happening on both sides of the board. Swap. Rook c1, and possibly a poor choice here, but queen to b5 was played by black, and now queen to f3, putting pressure on the f pawn, f6, and now a rather classy move, g5. These grand strategic ambitions always have to be underpinned by some sound tactics. And Petrosiano was had a very, very keen tactical mind. I never saw him play blitz chess, but apparently it was something to behold, how much he could see and how quickly. The idea here being that if takes on, let's have a look at it. If we take on e5, f6, check, and rook h1, good night nurse. And if f5, now then something like queen h3, and white's getting in down the h file. So black's lost control of the king side and is rather pinned down on the queen side. So after g5, knight f5, takes on c6, check, and after king to e7, queen to f4, and white just wins. So very tidy looking game by Petrosian, as they often are, and but a very convincing case about this is how you can play the Queen's Gambit for white. In the PGN file, I found another quite striking game showing our very own Paynton GM Keith Arkle playing a game. And Keith Arkle plays these positions in very much his own style. There's several things that he does that other people simply don't do. Well, let's have a little look. So let's start the game at least. So let's have an exchange variation. This time with bishop to g5. And black gets a chance in this variation where white's played neither queen to c2 nor bishop to d3. Quite often they play both. Black's got a chance in this position to play bishop to f5 and swap off this crummy bishop. So it proves to be. White's also swapped off the knight on f6. That takes the monitoring of this b4 square away, so b4 can be played very quickly. And we've achieved a couple of piece swaps, which may be in white's interests. When we start to look at plans for black, we'll see that again. And this again is a nice game to look through. We saw very classically same sort of setup, break with b5. We end up in a position with a black weakness on c6, and Keith won a nice endgame, as he so often does. I'll also put in the file, just because I can, there's a game in there by Anatoly Karpov featuring his favourite h3 variation of the Queen's Gambit declined. Exchange variation. People have tried all sorts of moves in this position, and h3 is just so Karpov, not committing to a plan and just saying to black, well, I can improve my position, how about you? So a game of Karpov's there, and a game lost by Karpov actually against Viktor Korchnoi, who played this exchange variation with same sort of setup that you've seen a few times already, but instead of continuing the minority attack with b5 and creating this classic weakness on c6, actually chose to play it more as an attempt excuse me, to grab space on the queen side. Very interesting game, which he won. A complicated game, but just shows that there's still some more thought to be had about how to play these positions for either side. Not a no game now, but very striking when it was played. So that's how to play the Queen's Gambit declined minority attack for white.